fucking Star Wars.
That's a big deal, right?
Let's go, Elon.
Yeah, we're excited too.
If it's not good,
Yeah.
you're gonna know.
It feels good.
I'm starting to like move. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to make some
Oh
music.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
let's go.
That's the effect.
So Dorothy's coming up on its 2-year anniversary, and thought it might be good. You know, a lot of people don't know exactly what's been going on with Dorothy, and just wanted to kind of sit and chat about. And I do want to say, Max, you just look so good.
Thank you, sir.
I have to agree.
He looks good.
The turtleneck.
I have to get dressed up for hanging out with you guys.
That's what this
You
is
gotta
about.
dress down usually. That's what I would say.
Well, you know, when you work from home, you have to do it up whenever you get to leave the house. They
So
let
that
me out
is
today.
that. I mean, I know that's like the opening intro, but Dorothy is it's an office that everyone works from home.
Our office is everywhere.
Our office is everywhere.
The world.
But that's new for creative agencies. Creative agencies always were offices, right? And the pandemic kind of allowed Dorothy to reimagine what a creative agency looked like, right?
Well, I would also say, like, for a lot of creative agencies in the past, it was an identifier, right? Like, how does your brand look? Like, how do you attract people? How do you tell it in there? So, the office for an agency was always extremely creative, totally different to like a corporate office. So, that's a big challenge, I think, for agencies these days, to figure out how can you get this identification for your, customers, but also for your employees without a physical space. Specifically, when you're an agency that builds physical spaces like we do. So
yeah, that's interesting. So somebody who doesn't know, if you're to describe Dorothy to somebody who maybe is interested in you, but they know nothing about this creative agency you work for, well, tell me about Dorothy. What is it?
Well, it's an experiential agency at its core. Although I would say, and we talked about this a lot, right? Experiential marketing comes a little short. I think we are trying to redefine what experiential means. Because in the end, every kind of marketing can be experiential, right? Instead of advertising, I'd say. In the past, you would advertise at somebody, throw stuff at them and say, like, buy our product. And what we're trying is to convince versus to just, throw at them and force them like a TV commercial. So that's our job, experiential.
So in 2 years, give a project that you did start to finish that you think is the project that really, I don't know, defines or was the perfect home run for Dorothy. What did you do?
Do you want to pick one? What do you like?
I think that the Star Wars at Comic-Con was pretty epic. That was a bucket list project for Mike, Tom, for many of our teammates.
Because it's Star Wars, or?
It's a big name. It's a huge IP to live up to. So as creatives, I think that there are certain entities out there that when you come in contact with them, like, you have to do it justice. So you have to create something amazing because it's fucking Star Wars. So working through that was a pretty challenging and rewarding process, just to try to live up to the vision of LucasArts.
And
yeah, no, totally. I would agree. I think, just for context, Tom is one of our creative directors, and Tom and I, we've worked on a lot of very fancy projects in the past, Max as well, and pretty much we touched Nike, we touched Google, Facebook, we did a lot of entertainment clients, Universal, Netflix. So a lot of amazing stuff that we were privileged to be able to do.
Yeah.
But the one thing we never got was Star Wars, right? And we were like the biggest fans. We just loved the whole aesthetic of the first 3 movies, at least, let's say. Stops for me there. But this was an opportunity specifically because it was a franchise under the Star Wars umbrella that's called Outlaws, which spoke to us, and we really felt that was something that we needed to accomplish on a level that is way beyond what people would have expected. And I think we managed to do this. Plus, it is an entertainment franchise. That's what we have at our core. Most of our clients, about 80% of our clients, are in the entertainment business, so music, film, games. So it was a perfect match for us, and
Yeah, and it's also Comic-Con, so it's like the Super Bowl of creative weirdos. So you have people running around
Yes.
in Star Wars costumes. Like you have Boba Fett coming
Like
into
if it's
your
not
experience.
good, if it's not good,
Yeah.
you're gonna know.
Yeah, they're gonna.
You're at the
they're
Super
gonna tell
Bowl
you.
and you're building this, and if it's not right, it's gonna become apparent really
It's game
quick.
time. Yeah.
And what was the response? Was it positive?
Yeah, first of all, what did we do? So the idea was this new game that Ubisoft, our client, is launching is about basically making front and center the hero is like a speeder. You're getting on a speeder. People know this from the third, part of Star Wars, on Endor, and that speeder is now like front and center of that game. And we basically worked with an art studio that does unbelievable work. Beautiful, very detailed work in the sculpture world. They've done Transformers, they've done a lot of stuff there. And we worked with them to build a 100% replica of that speeder from the game, put it there, and then we created an environment that looked like that specific planet that it all, happens on, and a massive entertainment wall in the back. Basically what we created is you got on a speeder and you had a camera set up for a video and you could have a takeaway that looks like you are actually in the game.
Full simulator.
Yeah, but physically. And the cool part was, and that I think made it so, to take that away, successful, was that it was not just for the people being on the speeder. We created almost like a coliseum around it, so people could stand around, and it was not just fun for the people participating, but it was also even more fun almost for the people watching and observing around. So we created an experience and a baked-in audience for them. That was a really great feedback loop because people were cheering them on, and the people on the speeder just felt like they had to entertain the crowd. Client was all over the moon, no pun intended, and we had great feedback. The press was amazing, and game is not on sale yet. It's coming very soon, I think in April. So we don't know if it was actually successful for the client, but yes, the feedback was fantastic.
Yeah, and the bike itself was made out of like half real motorcycle parts, half newly fabricated stuff. Like it was super sick. And what Mike mentioned about creating like a spectacle on site is really key. Like with everything that we do, it's not just about the person in that. Like it's got to look good on camera, on social, out there in the world. That's key.
I think sometimes when people think of creatives, they think it's like so complicated. Like, where do I even start? Do I even need it? What if I'm working with Dorothy? Like, it feels pretty overwhelming, right? The amount of project you're talking about, Nike and Google, but if I know that I need like, how would I know that I need you? When do I call When do I need Dorothy?
I can take it. I think we have really realized that our strength is understanding what the right time for the right event is and for the right kind of feeling that we want to evoke. And I think there's a lot of, you could say competitors, but like partners, people out there that are doing similar things.
There's other people that are creative that are out there that have agencies.
Yes, they have agencies that are agencies out there.
But what makes Dorothy?
Yeah, I think every single project we're tackling is coming from a perspective of insight and creative first. So we're looking at a problem or something that people would like to solve for their business, and we're not thinking about, okay, what's the outcome, what's the discipline, what is it called, is it experiential marketing, is it advertising, is it digital, is it social? We're thinking about what's the path for the best possible service we can give to the client. And that requires a lot of creativity. So if people come to us, they can expect the creative promise, right? Like we will do everything in our power to deliver the most creative solution for their.
I know we've talked about this, and I think that's actually, it's really hard to understand, but once you understand it, you get it. So many people, when you come to them, they're trying to solve a problem immediately with something they already know they have in their toolbox. Mm-hmm. And what Dorothy's saying is we're going to dive into the problem so much that the tool will reveal itself in some ways through a process. But don't come in and label the tool too early. Otherwise, you might not maximize the creative journey, if you will. Is that accurate?
this is
Yeah.
perfect.
And I think that's why the strategy side of it is so important.
And that's what you do. You're
Yeah, head of strategy at Dorothy. I mean, that's my official role, but really whatever me and Mike think of. But yeah, I mean, we make it simple. I would say that, it could sound really complicated, but to push back on that, we make it pretty simple. For example, we were working with a really great company who had an awesome product, and they were trying to figure out how to talk about themselves. They had no idea what to do. They sent us a video that was 3 hours long of developers and product people talking about their company. It was so confusing. So we sent them a 1-minute video back of here's what you should be saying to the public. And they typed it out, and now they use it to talk to investors, to market their products. So I think that really coming in with an open mind and being able to solve that process, collaboratively, that's one thing that we do really well.
And I know that Dorothy, from its origins, the goal was almost like this black ops, best of the best, this super, small, striking team that could take anything on. Is that what Dorothy looks like? Is that how you think of it? Like the best of the best? I mean, both of you have been in agencies for a long time. What would you describe the people, the culture of Dorothy like in comparison to other places that you've built?
I would say it's really about thinking about the best result first, right? Not so much about ego or trying to have your idea picked or anything. I think people are really honestly, genuinely interested in positive change. Like, how can we change this world or this project or this brand or this client for the better? Right? And I think that involves fighting, right? We're fighting amongst us in a very positive kind of way, in order to find that interesting thing, that new little nugget that nobody has discovered before. We always talk about this one thing. If there's one thing we're selling, it's true firsts.
It's what?
Like true firsts, something that hasn't been done before in that capacity. I mean, obviously, a lot of people say like, oh, it's never been done.
Yeah.
And that's hard to achieve. But maybe if you turn it down a notch and you say like, it's never been done in this context, or it's never been done for this kind of vertical. I think that's what we're really shooting for. Something where you like, that makes you, a little emotional, like where you get a little bit of a goosebump. It's like, okay, I haven't heard this, or
something that catches you off guard. You didn't see it coming, made you think different.
Yeah, a little surprise.
Yeah, we're creators. We don't micromanage. We don't push each other around or like force deadlines on each other necessarily. It's all self-motivated creative process. If you want to make amazing things, this is the place to do it. And the rest is kind of up to you.
Well, I mean, so you're in one of the probably craziest markets to have an agency, right? It's LA, New York, and so many people have a choice to go to so many different spots. Why would somebody come to work at Dorothy? What would make Dorothy, when under the hood, what's different about it?
You can create anything that you can imagine. We build the most unbelievable projects, and anyone with a good idea that brings their idea to our company can build it with us.
I remember that what I heard early on, and what Mike really pushed, was that a lot of times in an agency, there's this pressure to respond to every RFP because you need revenue, right? You're building this and you have people and you need to respond to everything. And so you almost just become like an RFP machine. And what I thought was pretty cool about Dorothy is Dorothy said, we're not going to just respond to any RFP. We're going to respond to the RFPs that we really feel like we could make a difference, that you have this belief in actually that's a pretty big difference, I think, from what I gather. Would that be accurate?
100%. I think really you have to meet the right people, right? Like, I think it's really about doing the right work for the right people. If you say we're there for everybody, you will water down what you have to offer. And usually the mutual respect for the work is not necessarily 100% a match. So I think, we're small enough for now to be able to say, okay, we really want to do outstanding work. And that requires outstanding partners that see the vision, that want to be a part of that like little group and this, kind of creative collective that we've built. Where people say like, we want to be part of this. We want to create something amazing. And we get this all the time. When we talk with clients, after a project, there's so much unbelievable positive feedback. And it's almost like our clients turn into brand ambassadors for us, right? They tell others about us and say, this is a beautiful experience, because it's not just a customer agency relationship. It's almost like we're working together to solve something.
Well, you would have to have your customers being brand ambassadors for how fast the company's grown, right? I mean, you guys have, you've doubled the team in 2 years. You won this incredibly prestigious award in the, it's the top 100.
We are one of the top 100 experiential agencies in the US.
Think about that. In 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, we're excited too.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Like, dude, that's a big deal, right? Like, you're stoked on that?
Absolutely.
And we're holding, I want to say this, we just talked about this, we're also holding 3 world records currently.
Yeah, record-breaking agency.
Record-breaking agency.
So within 3 years, we've broken 3 world records,
Yes.
top 100. Like, what's next? Where does it go? Like, if you were to go, I'm curious this. You ever look at a brand or you look at a company and you're like, they need Dorothy. Like, they need us. Who is it? Like, give me one that people would know. What's one where you go, I know you're probably like a fan, they'll never want to work with us ever. But what's one where you're like, they need our help?
I can't stop thinking about SpaceX. I think that going to space is one of the most experiential things you can do. The first thing that the first man to go to space said before the rocket took off was he said, "It feels good." And so I think if you don't treat that as an experiential opportunity to make a difference in the world, then I think you're doing it wrong.
So you're going, Elon, right now, I could help you.
Yeah, where's the camera? Let's go, Elon.
And Elon, by the way, we've already worked with you for the Boring Company. Come back.
Yeah.
Wherever you are.
Well, so any other brand? Is there another brand you see?
I think for us, there's a big passion for us in culture, right? I think the whole team loves culture, specifically music, specifically also fashion. I think we have a couple of things that we do. We design every year. We design a little flight of skate decks. We have a little fashion line of shirts that we're doing and hoodies. And I think if there is a client out there that shares that vision and we could be a part of that, a culture client would be fantastic to work with.
Yeah, anybody in music, festivals, concerts.
And that's your background.
Performance.
Right?
Yeah.
You were at Live Nation.
Yeah, I was at Live Nation for a bunch of years. I learned everything that I know from kind of bringing brands into the festival space. And
so next, as far as Dorothy will continue to work with more brands and but I'm sure that a lot of people want to know how AI is impacting creative agencies. I hear, this is some that comes up. How is AI impacting, and how is it? Like, how much is AI impacting what you're doing for your customer?
We also talked about that. Coincidence. So, does it really impact anything for the customer? I believe what it does right now is it creates an extreme shift in how you think about creativity. I think we can see this. I think a lot of people really, I would say, cherish their craft, like a designer, right, who has learned to work in Photoshop and, put things together and everything. And they're really good at that. They're very fast at that. That is currently a skill that gives you an advantage in the marketplace. Will that be the same in 2 years? Most likely not. But what will rise to the occasion, I believe, is taste. I think much more than skill and kind of craftsmanship, taste and an opinion will be the deciding factor in the future for a creative agency. Because the skill, the technical background will be less and less and less, and will be much easier to prompt things and to work with things. I think we have to be very, very open to this. We as an agency, we have enforced a lot of things where people just openly encouraged to work with AI as much as they can, ChatGPT, up and down, and all the tools like Midjourney, DALL-E. We work with everything that is out there and try to explore the frontiers of it currently. But I think what it all comes down to, it is nothing without your taste and your opinion. So I think that's what we are. That's just my take.
Yeah, just because a computer tells you that you can do anything that you want, it's not going to tell you what you should do. So, whether it's the printing press, computers, any new tool that comes onto the market, it's just different ways of expressing a big idea. You still have to come up with that big idea. I think that it's going to become easier to execute on those large concepts. You might need less people over time. But as a nimble, lean agency, like we're definitely at the forefront of that. Constantly learning new tricks with ChatGPT and like Mike said with Midjourney, like we're pretty deep in that. It's super exciting. And for us, it's just further empowering us to do more and more with those same amazing ideas.
Is there a project right now that you're working on that is really fulfilling to the agency, that is just stretching you guys in ways that you haven't worked without, maybe you can't say the name, but is there a project, and what is it that you're doing and why is it stretching?
It's literally stretching. There's a lot of inflatable.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I can say this. We can unfortunately not say which client this is, but it is for the Super Bowl and is for an entertainment entity. And this has been a process that is a game changer for the agency. It's the most professional, the most I would say highly acclaimed project we've done. As much as we love Star Wars was not on that level, because the Super Bowl is just a much wider exposure for us.
The Super Bowl's insane, right? The NFL, the amount of eyes, amount of just it's insane how much goes on leading up to this game. It's incredible.
Massive.
And so Dorothy went through an RFP process, won this particular opportunity. I'm sure competed against some of the biggest agencies out there.
Didn't want to say it, but yes, we really went into this. This is really a badge of honor for us, because we're a smaller agency and we're young, right? And before that, we've done a lot of creative things, but this was really honor for the United States, the highest level of competition.
But isn't that so cool about a creative? To me, about an agency is that no matter what your size is, that if you're better and your ideas are better, that you can be chosen. Whereas, like, if you're selling a product and you need to produce 1 million of them or whatever, but the reality that an idea, a company can be chosen. That one person can have a better idea than 100 people.
Yeah.
In some ways, right?
Especially right now. I mean, sports is a great example. The shift from broadcast to new media outlets like social and, live streaming, it's completely changed how sports works.
Yeah.
So I think that being a smaller agency that's closer to the social media world and creating these live content sets and understanding how that future works actually puts us in a much better position.
Bigger is not better.
Not necessarily.
I agree with you. I think that the hunger of the agency and the commitment to creative first that Mike talks about, I think that you see companies, or at least what I've watched, and Mike has really showed me this, that there's so many production companies that almost had to market that they're creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like almost from a marketing exercise, they're like, oh no, if we're not creative, then we won't have anything to produce.
Yeah.
But their origins isn't in creative first. And Dorothy, what makes Dorothy so unique is the origins are in creative first, and then we think, how would you produce it? And I think that really differentiates in the marketplace. I really do. I look at LA, some of the largest agencies really were production companies.
Yeah.
And we all know that the DNA of, where it starts, it's very hard to try to change that. So
yeah, I've worked at probably 3 different ones that they've gone through that process. They were a production house and they tried to build a creative team. And then COVID happened, and the ones that didn't necessarily have the the creative first mentality really struggled. And that's kind of part of our genesis, is that we realized that being creative first makes you more nimble and more
well, you came up out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
You took everything that you kind of saw and experienced and said, there was almost just as much more I don't want to do that. and it's really almost like launched the agency.
Absolutely.
Well, I will say, if I may, just to that point, I think that was a really eye-opening moment for us because, you don't know what is more successful or what is the better fit to the marketplace. Like, is it a production first, or is it a creative first, or is it a treasure first, whatever it is. But we both worked in another agency before we founded Dorothy, and we saw when the pandemic hit, if you are focusing on the idea, you're basically bulletproof. Like, if you have an idea first, like, an idea is always needed. During the pandemic, if there's a pandemic or not, or whatever is happening, if there's a recession, whatever is happening, you need ideas, specifically in hard times. In a hard time, a good idea can change everything. So I think we really learned that's something that differentiates us.
Yeah, it's crazy you say that. I never thought of it that way. The company that you were both at, because it wasn't idea first, they did not know how to handle embracing and focusing on the idea first. They almost probably wanted to produce their way out of it.
Yeah.
And in reality, you needed to ideate first, and it didn't know how to handle that.
It's almost like you're in quicksand and you're trying to run and work. You're just going deeper in unless you're thinking about it. What can I do? Okay, maybe I just grab like a plank or something like that and just engineer your way out of it versus, just work your way out.
And so in a lot of ways, if you took that, that's what you do for other companies. Every company, every brand, every personality requires ideas to help them progress, get better, and in some cases get out of quicksand completely. And I think that's what's so hard a lot of times in explaining what Dorothy does or who it is, but you're helping a brand progress through ideation and creativity. So I guess I wonder, where do you get your creative inspiration? What makes you so creative? How do you even judge who's a better creative? It's like music almost, right? But who inspires you? Where do you get it from?
From the world at large. I get really excited when I look at a problem and I see it differently, and I look around and I realize that the way that I'm looking at things, no one else is seeing the problem in the same way. I don't know where.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, there is no right or wrong, right? You have to accept that. Our job is not to be faster, bigger, stronger, or anything. It's being like having like a confidence in yourself. And think, okay, this is my level of taste. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm trying to confront myself with creative solutions all day and surround myself with creativity. And if there's a problem, it will naturally come to me to find an intuitive solution to a problem. And I think that is the only thing that you can do. So basically, when you're going into a RFP or in a project that you're getting briefed on, I think it's really to discover what you think is the best solution with all the knowledge you have, and then work through this. And I think that's what it is. And the inspiration, I can say, has to come from the outside. Like, one thing that we always make a really big thing about is we really try to say, okay, work hard, play hard, right? But the play hard is almost the work hard, because there are so many things you get exposed to. You're going to a concert, you're going out on the weekends, you're doing this, you're talking to people. You never know when that comes back to you, where you can use it when that puzzle piece that you didn't know where it fits in is needed. It's like, oh, this is exactly what we were just talking about. So it kind of never stops. You have to be open,
Yeah, and also I think that, like, on the point of like judging creative, it's I love that line. I don't know who said it, but good art doesn't need an explanation. It's like every once in a while, someone's pitching you an idea and you just immediately fall in love with it. You just fucking love it. And the clients do the same thing. And then you explain later why it makes sense to them, why it's a good idea. But there's just something innate about a really good idea, especially in experiential, where we're talking about feelings and art and music. If it gets us excited, then it's a good idea.
Oh, and I would say this, like, that's all it needs. First of all, that's all it needs for the beginning. Like, you have to be excited about it, because if you're excited about it, probably somebody else is as well. Maybe not everybody, but Dorothy is, hate to say it, not for everybody. It is for the right ones, right?
Yeah. Who's it not for? Who's Dorothy not for?
I think if somebody is really focused on aggressively just selling product without trying to do a more, I would say, empathetic approach to their audiences. Let's say, big email marketing campaigns, or
just people just trying
volume,
to jam it down. It's not. There's no style, no taste.
Jam it down. I think for a lot of, unfortunately, as we love the vertical, we're actually producing something right now in that world. But CPG is sometimes a little bit harder, right? Like, it's a lower involvement, lower emotion, and I think we're very good at emotion. And I think that's sometimes with mass products, CPG, it's a little bit harder.
Who's a brand? What's a brand out there that you think are just crushing it, or whatever person, whatever? Who's somebody that you love what they're putting out right now?
I love Andy Pearson at Liquid Death. I think that Liquid Death is so dope, and I'm seeing that as the brand is continuing to evolve, the individuals at the brand are becoming like real thought leaders in the space.
Them.
Yeah, and they're out there on LinkedIn talking about how they see problems and just being themselves.
And they're launching a lot more products, right? Liquid Death is doing more
big
than...
extension right now. Yeah. Big extension.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, anytime you have like marketing, creative people bringing products to life, a lot of times we would know it's really difficult, but you get really strange results. Like the Tony Hawk skateboard that Liquid Death did that had his blood in it. So cool.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Like,
the skateboard, in the paint.
Yeah, but basically they pulled Tony Hawk's blood, and then they mixed the paint, put some blood in there, and then they made the skateboard. Pretty wild.
What's a brand you look at, or something that you're inspired by?
I think, we talked a lot about Liquid Death, so I think we align on that. But there is another product that we just recently looked at that we really like, I think from a design perspective. And I think that is more a thing where we would love to be a part of, because I think what they're not doing is marketing so well yet. It's called Nothing. We were just talking about this. It's why I like it. It's basically a phone. It's a cell phone, and they have like headphones and all of that. And it's the first time that I see a real challenger for Apple, for like a more creative, a more involved community.
The actual product itself is as good. It executes.
Yes, it executes. It's multiple platforms. You can choose it. It's almost like an open source phone. And so far, that was very nerdy, right? Open source. People go with Android, and it's always like very techy. This one has a lifestyle approach and has a high design. It's extremely minimal. It's extremely well crafted.
Called Nothing.
It's called Nothing. And
you like that?
I like that. I do believe it has a massive potential, which is untapped so far. So, Nothing, if you want to call us, we're here.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. What an interesting name.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to lose.
Okay, so a lot of people don't know the story of how Dorothy gets started. I think people are genuinely curious, like how does an agency start? And maybe I start with my version, and then we can pack the snowball. But I had heard during the pandemic that there was an agency that was conflicted, and they didn't know if they were going to continue. And I don't even know if maybe I've shared this. I went on LinkedIn and I looked at everybody who had worked at this agency, and I started sending messages. And one person responded. I don't think either of you actually responded in the initial, but one did. And that one connected me to you, and then you connected me to Mike. And so then we started talking, and right as we're all talking, that agency shuts its doors, closes, and we go, let's go. And what's cool about it is it's not like... it was like there was this mutiny and everybody left. It was like, close this chapter, done, start a new chapter. But what I thought was so cool about it was how much you respected Mike to say, we can't do this without Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the funny thing is that right before you hit us up, we had the conversation about, we saw kind of the one door, the door closing behind us, and we're like, damn, we could keep doing this, guys. Like, this sucks. Like, we're doing great. I think the day that we got the news that we were closing, we were about to go pitch on one of our biggest projects ever. And so it felt like such a waste to let this amazing team go. And so when I heard from you, I mean, it was the perfect opportunity to say, hey, like, let's go. Like, here's Mike, here's everybody. Adam came along, the whole team was intact and ready to go. And Mike was our fearless leader. So,
well, I will say, it's very hard to find a good creative team and build that over time. So I think that's sometimes a little bit underestimated when people think like, oh, let's just like found an agency and, and then just we hire people, or I just, go on LinkedIn. And that's just unfortunately not how it works.
Yeah.
It's also a lot of luck involved, right? Like, a little bit of instinct, a little bit of intuition, but a lot of luck. And I think when we started, in the other agency and we created, this little group and, pulled people in and, basically delicately assembled that creative team, we really struck gold. And in that first year, that was 2019, it was the year before the pandemic, we grew exponentially. We won every single pitch, every RFP left and right. And to be quite honest, we got spoiled. We did not know that would happen. And usually that never happens. It's this old, like 1 out of 10. I'm telling you this all the time, right? You get 1 out of 10. That's what happens. And in this case, we got 10 out of 10. Really. Yeah. Because we really cared. We really had the right people, and we had an organization, and we'll want to give credit to that organization that was very open to adjust. For this new reality.
Yeah, they believed in us.
They gave us free range, right?
Yeah, and also the other thing is that like there's a lot of ways to do creative, but I think that like for me and Mike having this like similar like kind of twisted sense of humor and a lot of the same like musical interests, and like there's just such a culture match, I think, that it's just like there's nobody else that I'd rather spend, late nights like working with. So it works, so, yeah.
So when you just said late nights, like when people, a lot of jobs you can kind of visualize what exactly happens there. When do you work best? How does the agency operate? What's day to day? Give me a snapshot of day to day.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think no day is the same. I think that's the beauty of the business we're in. Comparison. You are in a marketing position at a big brand. Your day probably looks pretty much the same every day, and you have also the same product every day, mostly, right? So that can be very fascinating because you get a lot of domain knowledge. You're very deep in that domain, and you're getting very good at that. Yeah. But it also basically steals away from you all the other things that could be, influential for that and making that process better. So for us, the beauty is we have so many things that we have to think about every day. But obviously, what we're trying to do is create a really good frame around the pretty picture. So we talked about this a couple of times, right? I think it's very important if you want to be really creative to have a very tight process and really understand the frame for the picture needs to be the same, needs to be minimally intrusive, so you can actually focus on the work and be extremely creative within that framework. So one thing what we religiously do is every morning there will be a meeting, no matter what's on the schedule. We'll go through the day, divide and conquer what needs to be done, determine deadlines. That's everybody. It's an all hands call every morning with at least the creative team and sometimes production and accounts. And then we go into our day. And then there's usually a lot of work just involved for everybody individually. We work in the Google ecosystem mainly. So we have like all these tools that everybody knows, Slides, Docs, and Gmail and Slack beyond Google. And that's basically like a time for
exchange of ideas, and building together.
Yeah. I think there's also a misconception, I think, about brainstorms. Everybody's like, hey, let's come together to brainstorm. I think there is no brainstorm if nobody is prepared, right? Like, just, that's not the right thing to do. It. Usually what we do is like, hey, we have this time allocated, there's a session. It's almost like a musician coming together. Mm-hmm. You know, when you want to create a new song, you don't come empty-handed. It's like, oh, let's bring my guitar. Usually you have like a little bit of a fragment for a song, maybe you have a little bit of a riff, or you have like a lyric idea. That's what we're doing. Basically, we have jam sessions, and before that, everybody, you know, primes themselves for the subject matter, gets domain knowledge, gets in there, and then, you know, things come together.
Yeah, I'm starting to like move. Like I'm like, I'm ready to make some music. Yeah, let's go.
That's the effect.
Let's go.
So yeah.
So this agency starts. You guys are going. You're building the team. And you've scaled this team really fast, like really, really fast. It's grown like 100% in 2 years. Insane. What do you think the common red thread amongst all of these team members are? Because when I'm with the team and I see everyone, it does feel like when you talk about that music part, everybody's making that music. What is it? What is the red thread?
What do you think?
I think that it's a self-motivated kind of creator attitude. I think that everyone at our company, like I said, like the schedules are pretty loose. So it really attracts a certain kind of person that feels individually, personally motivated to create cool shit. Like if you don't have that, and we always give people the benefit of the doubt, you know, that's something that's really hard to actually hire for also. So
it's either you have that or not. No one's going to train that into you.
Right. And the people that aren't necessarily that way, you know, aren't as happy. And the people that absolutely love it and thrive are the ones who, you know, you can hit them up at any time throughout the day and they're working on something awesome that they absolutely believe in. And it does create internal tension because people have so much passion and energy and they're so driven. But ultimately it propels us forward in a really amazing way. And it's all driven by each individual putting their heart into what they're doing.
And I will say, that's the most beautiful and most magical kind of tension that you can have.
Yeah.
If two or more individuals come together and they both are intrinsically motivated to create the best result.
Yeah. The intent is there.
Yeah.
The intent is the same. You might have a different perspective on it, right? Like you might have a different, but you need those perspectives in order to create something new. And because otherwise it's just very in your own mind, in your own head. That's why it's an agency and it's not an artist, a singular person, right? It's like an agency that has multiple creators, multiple thinkers. And if you have a different kind of specialty, for example, you're a producer, right? Or you are a person that is more in the copywriting style, you will naturally have a different perspective on a subject matter.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it because you're coming from a different side of the business. And that is amazing. What's not great if the friction is coming from somebody who just who's not interested enough, right? It's like, well, I'd rather play golf or do like something else, right? That's not helpful. But I think that tension that we have there, where it comes from a place of accomplishment, it's the best you can have.
Yeah, it's the kind of place where if you ask somebody what they think about something, they're going to have an answer. They're not just spaced out like whatever, you know.
I don't care.
Yeah.
They care. By the way, that's it. I think that's the magic thing.
Yeah.
People do deeply and honestly care. And if you care, you will fight for your claim, right? You're just like, no, I think this is amazing. And then the others say, I think this is amazing too. And then you have to find common ground.
Well, however you've done it, you've put together this insanely good team. You're winning awards. You're winning new customers. And I think, you know, if someone's out there and they go, I want to just, you're open, right? Like you're open to talking to new people.
Absolutely.
Right? Your door's open. There's an open sign.
There's an open sign, a virtual open sign. I can always come into our Zoom room. And yeah, I think if somebody's motivated by what we just talked about and thinks like, hey, wow, I would like to work there. That seems like I am, you know, or a client is like, well, maybe this is something that can solve my issues. Yeah. And I will say this too, Ryan. I think one important thing, the core of our existence, how we founded Dorothy, you said that earlier a little bit. I think it comes from us having been in so many different constellations with other agencies, with other brands that we worked for, where we always saw that the client agency relationship was usually very much as a service provider versus somebody who's paying the bills, right? Agency service provider, brand paying the bills. And there's also some kind of entitlement sometimes, I would say, on the agency side, knowing it better, like, or being like the creative agency and, you know, elitisms. And I think we really wanted to break that down and say, well, no, we don't believe in us, you know, telling everybody what to do.
Yeah.
We really wanted to say, okay, no, we're a partner for you. We want to get your domain knowledge. We know that you are so much more versed in your specific field, and we can provide a different perspective and together can create something beautiful. That's where the name Dorothy comes from, right? It's Dorothy going on that journey. We're not the Wizard of Oz that tells everybody they know what they're doing. We're Dorothy who goes on this journey, finds friends, and then basically helps those friends discover their strength that they had all along. I think that's the relationship we were thriving for with
Yeah, that's exactly it. We
client.
bring out the best in brands. We really do. And that's I think that everything that our process tries to bring out in people, and why we don't go into meetings telling them exactly what they should do right off the bat. We take our time, we learn about them, we listen to their problems, we look at the world that they're living in, you know, and a lot of times they already have the answers, especially with, you know, larger companies. They already know intrinsically what they need to do, but because there's so much bureaucracy and internal red tape, they need an agency to come in and help guide them towards that answer in a way that's, you know, feels a little bit better and is more creative.
Well, 2 years in, congrats. And I think a lot of people that are watching this or whatever, whoever, I think they're going to want to know more. And so there's, I'm sure, a way that they'll be able to contact and all that. But again, you look good, Max.
Great, Max.
Yeah, it's great.